All right. This is my chapter 12 observation. Really cool and important chapter for, any of the students that are especially going into communications like I am, right? Where this is going to be the thing. So much of communications now, if you are working, um, after you graduate, is going to be tied to communications using technology, right? I know a lot of people that are in this class are going to be doing PR or applied communication, stuff like that. Um, and so it's a really important chapter. The first thing I want to touch on, and it's something that I think I might have touched on in my discussion. I just want to check. Maybe I didn't. Um, we got to talk about core ties and significant ties. I think the thing that social media and media in general has created is almost this core ties. Did I say core ties and significant ties? That was, I felt like I might have misspoke there. Um, I feel like there's an option being formed in between them, right? Where core ties are the people who you have a really close relationship with, that you are in frequent contact with, um, a person that you are communicating with and seeing often. And a significant tie is a person that is you're more than just acquainted with, but you don't have a strong connection, right? And I feel like this is creating a kind of tying into the family thing that we talked about. This is creating a separate group where it is people that we are more than acquaintances with and we have a good connection with, but we don't consider them like it's not a core tie, right? Like my extended family. I'm more than an acquaintance and I have a fairly strong connection with them because of how often we are able to keep up with each other via online. But I wouldn't consider them a core tie when I think about it, right? There's an in between space, right? Where it doesn't feel like a significant tie is what I would want to call them, and so it was just interesting, right? Thinking about that, so many people in the discussion were talking about um, that specifically, and how social media has influenced us to keep up with people on a very surface level, right? To the point where when you get with somebody, you don't feel like you have a lot to talk about because you know the things that are going on in their life, but also you don't understand how they're feeling, or like you don't understand the depth of what they're feeling or the depth of the things going on around them. And so you don't feel like you should pry because you feel like you know, but also you don't know. I don't know a better way to explain it than that. Um, I thought talking about the media equation, especially, this is something that I focused on a lot in my notes. I think that that is one of the reasons that technology is so scary to me, is that we try to treat technology like it is. I don't know how to explain this. We treat technology like it will be able to respond to us with emotion, right? I think that a big part about the reason we treat each other as individuals the way we do is because of emotion, right? We react emotionally, and in turn, they react emotionally, and the emotion is something that bonds us. Whereas we are able to communicate with technology in ways that we would not normally communicate with a person, but because of the way we communicate with technology, sometimes when we communicate with a person, we forget to change the way we're communicating, right? And I think that actually I've noticed that we practice poor communication or poor social expectations when we are interacting with technology. So then when we communicate with people, we forget to switch over to speak to them with more humility and humanity, right? Um, there's another thing I wanted to touch on. Let me just get to it real quick. Mm. The That included the difference between how we communicate with other technologies like a desktop computer, an iPad, television versus how we interact with our cell phone, right? We've gotten to the point where a cell phone feels like an extension of ourself. It feels like if you've ever built a PC, sometimes you add an extra place to have storage so that you have two storage devices in one computer, right? I built a gaming PC. It feels like we have an alternate storage device, right? Which in turn has made us less. I think it has affected our cognitive function, right? I talked about that a little bit in one of my other classes, how technology has impacted cognitive function. Um, but we interact with our cell phones like they are an extension of ourselves. Sorry, this is a really long video, but there's a lot I wanted to get to.